Okay, so this first video is going to show you how to make a custom backsplash, basically using tiles from the real world. First thing you need to do is math out where your backsplash is going. So in my case, what I did is I pulled up lines from the floor. So using my tape measure, and I went up 3 feet. And then from that 3 feet, I went up 18 inches. And that's going to be the where your backsplash is going to sit on your wall. So you can do two things. You can either draw the shape over here now and kind of measure it out, or you can draw the shape on your surface. So in my case, I'm going to start about here, go up straight. So that's the blue line, go over to here. Then I'm also going to go from this corner. I'm going to have a window here eventually. Go over to here. All right, hit escape. Then I'm going to go over to here, and hopefully that, see how the lines got a little lighter there along this edge. This means now that this is its own kind of plane right here. So the easiest way to do this right now, actually, is hit Control C, Control V, and I'm going to put it out over here because we're going to talk about this in a minute in terms of like the thickness of tiles too. All right, so now we've got the space that's going to be where we're going to put our tile backsplash. Next, what I want to do is now find a real world image of tiles. There might be some nice ones in architecture, but again, especially for your sophomore year, you're going to go out and be looking for real world things and getting actual physical samples. So one of the companies we use a lot in sophomore year is Tile Bar, because what they'll do is they'll send you a sample for free. They just charge you $1 for shipping. So basically you can get a lot of really nice tile samples for your finished boards from Tile Bar at a very reasonable shipping cost. All right, so I'm going to go right now to this trending now just to get something that's that really kind of busy pattern. I'm literally going to just go with this first one here because we'll be able to see how this repeats. So we're going to click on that. So one of the things you first need to do, and this is why I also like Tile Bar, is you need to get a photo where you're looking at it straight on, where there's no perspective. So like this picture right here would not work for us because it's going to warp the way we try to paint it on the surface. What we want is a nice flat image, oops, like this one right here. So if you click on see more images, we'll kind of get rid of that bar on top of it. But notice how when I scroll over, it zooms in. That's a bit of a pain. So we can't really right click on this image and save the image, but let's see what it looks like. We're going to do save image as. So we're going to do that one first. If that doesn't work, I'm going to show you what a snip looks like. So yeah, so it's an AVIF file, meaning that it's kind of an interactive file on its website. That's not going to work for us. If it's a static photo, you can right click and just say image. But in our case, what we're going to do is use the snipping tool that all your laptops have. So you're going to type in the word snipping, and then up will kind of this like default tool that we use a lot in class. So what you're going to do is click on new, and then you're going to hover over this picture. And what we want to do is, let's see, first let me get new again. So you got new, and oh, there it goes. Now it was timing out. So it kind of timed out and instead caught me on that weird jump out. So I'm going to start it up again. All right, there we go. Now we've got it. So try not to hover over it. So again, you might have to tweak it a lot. So this works pretty good. I'm going to actually only get 2 blocks of these, and I'll show you why in just a minute because it'll help me with the math. All right, so I'm going to save that. So if I go back to here, snipping tool kind of jumps up on its own. Go over to what it looks like, the little file here, click on save, and then save it somewhere where you'll remember where to find it. So in my case, I'm going to do it. This is for our class here. I already have one here. So I'm just going to say Backsplash 2. All right, before you leave this website though, one of the things you want to do is check the real world math of these tiles. So they sell these individual, like this little square that keeps jumping up. So if you scroll down through their website, you can find out that each tile is 8" by 8". So remember, I have 2 across and 2 going down. So it's basically 16 by 16 inches. All right, so now if we go back to SketchUp, now I want to make a new tile to paint in there. So what I want to do now though, is pick from their catalog's tile. Because what will happen is when we go to use photorealistic software, rendering software, we want to have the tile, we want to have the material be what it would be in the real world because this will impact how light and things will bounce off of it. So for example, the kind of tile I want is not shiny, it's pretty matte. So I'm going to look for examples that look like they're kind of matte, more stone tiles. So maybe something like this. So click on that. So that's an encaustic tile. Again, that's pretty similar to my sample I have already. This little box right here with the plus sign, we're going to click on that. I'm going to basically make a new material kind of using this as my base. So I'm going to say backsplash tile. And what I want to do now is change the picture it's using. So in this case, Sketchup is going into its own library and pulling that as a picture right now. So I'm going to click on this little folder here. It's going to take me to kind of my desktop. It's already got mine loaded. This is kind of my better color one here. So I'm going to click on that, open that. And then the other thing I want to do is I want to change the size of this. So remember, I know in the real world, this is 8 inches and then 8 inches. So it's 16 by 16 square. So if I type in 16 inches here, what's going to happen though is it doesn't make it necessarily a square here. So you can unlock this. Normally this is kind of helpful. It locks in the perspective, like the length and the width of it. But in my case, I'm going to then kind of type it in here, make sure it's exactly 16 inches by 16 inches. So I'm going to say, okay. And now I can paint it in here. And it's repeated pretty well. The one thing I want to do now, though, is kind of shimmy these tiles around. So again, they're being cut in a nice area because this is the grout line right here. So if I right click on it and I go texture, position, I can now have some handles to kind of move things around. So in my case, it's going to go about here. And let's see, we'll zoom out. And that's roughly how those tiles are going to fit. So you can play with the scale and placement a little more, but in general, that's how they're going to cut them in the real world. Now, this is kind of getting close to what a real world layout of this tile would be in a backsplash. Now, the thing is, tile is not flat in the real world. It's got some depth to it. We could check the math again on this one. Actually, I'm going to fuss with it one more time because I don't like where those grout lines are appearing right here. I'm going to go down with it a little bit. Let's see. Okay, that's good. All right, so what we want to do is pull this out about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to use the push-pull tool, and I'm going to just literally type in 0.25 inches, 1/4 of an inch, and then see how I've got some depth to it. Now what I'm going to do is make this a component. So let me get out of the way of some of my lines here. I'm going to collect the whole thing. And then let's make sure I got the whole thing. Yep. And I'm going to right click and say make component. And this is just going to be like kitchen backsplash. All right. Great. Okay. Now I'm going to bring it back into my kitchen. So what I'm going to do is try to get on. Actually, the back corner is going to be the easiest. I'm going to move it from this back corner over to the wall. So I'm going to click right there. So notice how I clicked onto that back corner. I'm zooming way out. And then I'm zooming way back in and I'm lining it right up to the back wall like that. And so basically that's kind of the best order of business to get a custom or like a real world tile sample. That's not just from these libraries in SketchUp or architecture, but like a real world sample. And then how we want to give it some depth so it looks like real tile on the wall. We'll eventually also have a countertop in here too. I have another video for that, which is a pretty similar process, but that's usually just finding the sample and painting it in there. All right, so give this your best shot on your own. I'll also help folks tweak it in class too.